I'm Ruwanthi. I'm originally from Sri Lanka, currently based in London. Today I will be talking about how Artivism can be used to change the narrative of fast fashion. And before we move on to the presentation, I thought of sort of taking you across the roadmap today. So we'll first get to know what Artivism is, and then the role of Artivism, and also understanding what fast fashion is, and finally sort of getting to know the intersection of both. And oops, that skipped early. And finally, the behavioral change. And Aibowan means hello in my mother tongue, which means may you live longer. I'll tell a little bit about my background. So I was here 2 years before for the Reader's Design Awards in Hong Kong, and I was the runner-up. And talking a little bit about my other fashion experience in sustainability, I took part in the Taiwan Fashion Design Awards, and I was the champion of that. And also I've taken part in the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, and also currently I'm working on a project with the Royal College of Art in London about how to use scent in fashion storytelling. And when it comes to my work on Artivism, I think one of the biggest projects which I've done this year was that I was able to showcase my work at the UN Ocean Conference in Nice, France. And at the same time, I collaborated with the European Parliament in Strasbourg, where I got to work on this really big canvas with 150 other teenagers in front of the Parliament, which was on Artivism as well. And my most recent project was with the Berlin Science Week in Berlin, where we took the scientific aspect of scientific data and converted that into artistic narrative to talk about recreating fashion in an artistic lens, but using scientific data. So what is Artivism? What comes to your mind when you say Artivism? So Artivism itself is consisting of two words, which is bringing art and activism together. So basically, if you take art, you would think of it as something you would look at, or it could be any form of art. Maybe it could be a sound or like acting or anything which is creative. When it comes to activism, it's really talking about maybe a social or a political issue. So when you put these two together, that means you're talking about a problem which is happening around you, but via using art. So this is one of the examples which I picked, which is Dancing on Thin Ice by Pam Ferris Olsen. As you can see, it's a polar bear doing this. So the polar bear is dancing on thin ice. This is a piece of artwork which is also art, but at the same time, it's giving a deeper message into what's actually happening in the environment, which is declining of ice caps. And this is not just telling you right into like pointing out the data facts, but more of like drawing an image with emotions. So that's what Artivism is. And I think most of you must know about Bansky. He's a famous artist who draws on walls. So basically in this picture, you can see that there's this kid it looks like he's enjoying snow, but actually it's a dumpster truck which is on fire. So it really speaks 1,000 words rather than just showing with a slogan, but more of like creating this emotional reaction to what's actually happening. And here comes the big problem. So what is fast fashion? So basically, it's this linear supply chain of making, using, and getting rid of the garment without really thinking about what's going to happen to it afterwards. And this has multiple repercussions environmentally, or when it comes to the social welfare of it as well. So in order to tackle this, how can we really take fast fashion as this factor and sort of dissect it into tiny little parts so that when you're communicating it to a crowd or a community, so that you can tell the story to art. If not, like, how can you discuss that there is a problem that people are not aware of the problem? So that's where the role of Artivism comes in. Really creating the awareness of that there's this issue, and how can we use creativity to question how we consume. And also at the same time, I know everyone's talking about, yeah, this is bad, we need to do something about it, but rather really telling it intellectually, but more of sort of creating it into emotions and conveying the idea through that. At the same time, it sort of moves away from pointing a finger at you saying, hey, you're buying too many things, this is bad. It's more about giving you a responsibility to make you understand that this is not going the right way. So this is from my personal work, which I've done with Artivism. So I work with scent and sound, not just visual art, because art is about creating something which everyone can sort of experience. So I recreate smell of pollution. It comes as a perfume. Instead of smelling good, it smells bad. And that's me presenting it to the British High Commissioner in Sri Lanka. So he said that it really left a scar in his brain because it smells so bad, and which is the exact point. You need people to remember that it's bad and this is what's happening in the real world. And this is a good example as well. So in the 1800s, the botanist Anna Atkinson in the UK created this book called British Cyanotype Algae. So in this year, Mandy Baker in 2025 created this new version of it calling British algae cyanotype imperfections. Basically, instead of using algae, what she did was she collected beach waste, which was on the beaches, and converted them into cyanotype prints. So if you look at the image, it looks like a seaweed or algae, but actually it's a piece of discarded fabric yarn which has been left on the beach. So really shows the hidden meaning of what's happening around you, actually, but not really using words. And this is one of my creations to it's symbolic of bleaching coral. It looks very dark and kind of like, I feel like there's like a ghost which is trying to catch you up, and that's some of my work as well. And the fast fashion story, it's by using Artivism, you are trying to disrupt this rhythm of buying, using, and disposing it. And it's more about asking the question of how can you sort of incorporate different value systems into it, like through upcycling, repairing, bringing in art into the garment. You are actually stopping it because it creates this connection with the wearer to the story of the garment, which is being told personally rather than just a mass-produced story. And these are some of the samples which I've done in my artwork as well. It's very kind of like tactile and also incorporating different types of materiality into the story. And at the same time, when you say craft and art, I think in the previous presentations also you saw that whenever there is craft, there is art, because craft is celebrated through art. And it's so important to sort of be in touch with different heritages across the world, because whenever there is craft, there is this knowledge which is being passed down. And by using Artivism, you can actually preserve those memories, which will be passed down to the next generations. And just like weaving or any other textile, it's not just woven thread, it's more about woven histories which goes into the garment. So these are some of my sort of like materials which I collect in my artwork. It's basically waste which I collect on the beaches, and every beach I go to, I find different waste. So I've done this project in Sri Lanka and in Bangkok. So it's the same type of waste which ends up in the ocean. It shows how we have sort of discarded this waste, and I've taken that onto the garment, so this becomes the part of the storytelling as well through the garment. So it leaves the shadow of this story of microplastic trails which it leaves behind. And at the end of the day, Artivism is about spreading awareness to bring together this collective action. It's about making people connected to the story, and through a garment and through art, making them really feel what's actually happening, because that's what's lacking at the end of the day, because you know the statistics that it's happening and it's bad, but why is not stopping people from doing it? Because we are, as humans, are emotionally driven creatures. When we buy, there's a pleasure which is attached to it. You're forgetting, you're sort of like ignoring the responsibility which is attached to that. So you use art to sort of bring together this storytelling. And these are a couple of images from the exhibitions which I've had across Sri Lanka. And this is some of my highlighted work. So after every exhibition or every sort of talk I do, I follow it up with a workshop in most of my Artivism activities. So it's really interesting to see how each person have a different narrative, although we hear the same statistics about pollution or overconsumption. Each person have a different perception of what's actually happening. So it's about really understanding your personal connection with the story and recreating it from that. And this is some of the other pictures from previous workshops as well. And I'm really happy to open the floor for any questions, because it'll be interesting to know, like, it's a very kind of like strange topic, I feel like, very abstract, because it's not by the book, because we are talking about emotions. There's no guideline to it. So if you have any questions about how to create your artwork, or maybe what are the things you need to think about, I'm really happy to answer if you have any questions. I think we have like 2 minutes left.
When you start your Artivism projects, do you have a set goal in mind, or do you find that your idea and your concept changes as the project evolves? And does that apply to everybody you work with, or does it apply to more when you're working by yourself?
I think it's such a great question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, it's definitely a journey which changes throughout the research. I think so is in any art project as well. And so I've worked with communities back in Sri Lanka, in Hong Kong, sorry, not in Hong Kong, in Bangkok, and also in Berlin. So each country speaks different languages, and each culture has different sort of relationship with water, clothes, and pollution, these topics. So every time I do a workshop, although it's the same workshop, the outcome is very different. So it shows how, as humans, we are different as well. And I think that's a common issue which you have when it comes to tackling fast fashion. You can't think globally, you much rather think regionally to tackle the issue region by region, rather than thinking of it and diving it head first. And can I take one more question? Yeah.
Hi, thank you for that, Ruwanthi. Really interesting talk. My question, actually, you sort of halfway answered it. It's a bit related to what you just said, which is about you've worked with all different ages, adults, children, students. I'm curious about the different responses to your Artivism based on age groups.
I think the most sort of younger they are, the more creative they are. No offense to any age group, but I feel like the response is so pure. I think the youngest I've worked with is with 3-year-olds, and intentions were so pure that after the workshop I got feedback from the parents that when this dad was trying to do recycling and he has accidentally put the wrong box in the wrong recycling bin, and he was like, Daddy, you shouldn't do that, that's wrong. So it just really shows that how you need to change this narrative from a very young age, and that's the change where you need to start.